We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Sunday when you listen to this. I'm recording it late Saturday night. Now, this is going to be a little different podcast than you've heard as of late. Normally, I might do a live or I might have some guests. Neither is the case here. I used to do podcasts just on my own, reading emails and that sort of thing. And frankly, that's tough to do. And for me, it's kind of boring. I don't know about you, but for me, it's kind of boring to do that. But tonight, I don't have a guest and I'm not doing a live. And we had kind of a full day today. You see, we're watching our 5-year-old granddaughter while my son and his wife and my grandson are moving into a new house. So we're kind of keeping her out of the mix so that they can do what they got to do. And we're going later today, as you're listening to this, to drop my granddaughter off to see her new bedroom, new house, and all that sort of stuff. And today we don't ever say that the Rational Boomer isn't cultural. With that I don't appreciate culture, because earlier yesterday, and my wife and I and my granddaughter went to see a play. We went to the theater. And what did we see? We saw Charlotte's Web. Now, it's been a long time since I've seen that story. And I knew my granddaughter would love it. And she did. She had a good time. But it is a great story. It is kind of an iconic story. It goes back, well, it was written before I was born, 1952. So we did that. We come home. My granddaughter wants to swim, so we do that. My wife has to work early in the morning, so she's got to go to bed early, but my granddaughter wants to watch movies. So everything took precedence over doing this podcast. So I'm sitting here by myself as my wife and my granddaughter are asleep, and I'm thinking, well, I can sit down and talk for a period of time. I don't know that it'll be good, but I'm going to do it because I've committed that I would have a podcast every day, and I've done that thus far. So anyway, we're going to talk about some of the things that are happening around the country. And a lot of interesting things are happening. I mean, we had No King's Day yesterday, and that was much anticipated. People were excited about it. The Republicans were terrified by it. They didn't like the idea that Democrats would step out into the streets and speak ill of their Lord and Savior, Donald Trump. But that's exactly what happened. And there was a record amount of people that stepped out into the streets. Now, prior to this podcast, I talked about this, and I was bantering about 20 million people, because I swear that's what I heard about the last particular No Kings protest. It isn't 20 million people. It might be worldwide, because that's the one thing you have to understand. We had it big going on in this country, but you were seeing it in other countries around the world too. So there might be 20 people. But in this country, it looks like there were 7 million people out in the streets. And that's about 2 million more than the last No Kings. Donald Trump and the Republicans being afraid of it and talking shit about it, that can be part of what's attributed to the bigger numbers. Not to mention all the fucked up shit that Donald Trump is doing. People are getting tired of it. They're ready to step out. Now, Donald Trump had said that these were all Antifa. They're all paid. They're going to be violent. It's going to be like the George Floyd riots. It's going to be horrible. This is what's going to happen. Not at all what happened. Actually, I got to say, I'm very proud of the millions of people that stepped out in the streets. They took a different tone here. They're terrified. They're angry at Donald Trump and the Republicans about the things they're doing. But they took the right tone. They made it kind of a party event. They got people wearing costumes and having fun. The point of it was to show force, show power without being forceful. Just by virtue of showing up and coming together on this one subject, the Republicans and Donald Trump, they showed a lot of strength. But there was no angry fighting or any kind. I mean, Jesus Christ, there was a couple, 300,000 people that showed up to New York City, and there wasn't one arrest made. How does that even happen? And I said, the Republicans have to understand one thing. You can complain about the No Kings protest, and you can say what you want to say, and oh, it's going to get violent and such. Think about this: 7 million people hit the streets all across this country. We're talking about 2,700 different rallies planned in all 50 states. Demonstrators marched to make clear that there are no kings in America. Protests came as Trump deployed National Guard troops, of course, and immigration agents to cities including Chicago and Washington, D.C. This was pushback by the Democratic Party and independents and liberals, or whatever you want to call them. But I want you to think about something. 7 million people hit the streets. It was pretty peaceful. There was no damage, no cities burned. There was nobody injured. Very few, if anybody, was arrested. 7 million people on the streets. And the Republicans want to suggest we're the violent ones. Well, let's just make this comparison. 7 million Democrats, liberals hit the streets. All goes well. Kind of like the old Woodstock. 500,000 people come and there is no violence and there is no problems. That's how this No Kings protest ended up. But let's look at the Republicans. Let's go back a few years. January 6, 2021. What, maybe 3,000 people, Republicans, Trump-la-fucks, attacked our state or our U.S. Capitol, did damage, hurt people, killed people, threatened people. On our side, the ones that you claim are violent can have 7 million in the streets without a problem. You goofy motherfuckers have 3,000 people at the U.S. Capitol and wreak all kinds of havoc. So who, in fact, are the violent ones? Who, in fact, are the treasonists? Who are the ones that hate America? Because that's what I really loved. Donald Trump and some other people said, Mike Johnson said, this protest was a hate America protest. Hey, you look kind of foolish now because that's not how it turned out. That's not the impression that was given. And why this was so important and why it had such a distinct impact is this. It opened the eyes of a lot of people. Donald Trump and the Republicans will tell you that the people that support them are the vast majority. There's so many people supporting everything that Donald Trump and the Republicans do, which is absolute bullshit. Well, they got woken up when they saw millions of people walking through the states of this country, the streets of this country, and they realized something. These people were nonviolent, they were having fun, and they were pushing back against the very thing that they suggest is popular. They're lying to you, they're hoodwinking you, they're gaslighting you. Now, the interesting thing is Donald Trump loves talking about ratings. He loves talking about numbers of people that show up to rallies. And he thinks he's the most popular person in this country. And I will have to say this. Donald Trump is part and parcel the reason for this record-setting protest. They came out because of Donald Trump. But what you have to understand, Donald, is they came out for you to suggest how much they think you suck, how much they want you gone. So you had a record, you got the ratings, you got the turnout, but it's all against you. So I'd like to call out the Republicans, the Trump-la-fucks, who keep telling us how popular Donald Trump is. Did you walk down the streets today? Did you see what was going on? Did you have any idea what they were doing? Because what you keep telling us, what you keep feeding us, is proved wrong today. You were wrong. And I know you hate admitting you were wrong, but there's no denying it when you see the sheer numbers of people out there that think Donald Trump and you suck. Just so you recognize that. And the other question I would have is this. All these Trump-la-fucks out there that want to be tough, they're tough guys. They keep talking about civil wars. Oh, we're going to have a civil war and we Republicans are tough and you Democrats aren't. After seeing 7 million people on the street, even though they weren't violent or even threatening, you still want to do that civil war? Do you think you could call out 7 million people, a bunch of overfed, fucked up, mentally diminished people. You want to come out in the street and match wits with the people that were out there today or yesterday in the No Kings parade. So I'm hoping this sent a message to the Republicans who thought that they had the majority on their side. That's not true, never was true, but now you can see it for yourself firsthand. You didn't have to count on Fox. You didn't have to count on any media outlet. All you had to do was drive down the street and you would probably see a big pile of people that think totally the opposite of you. That may be troubling. And the other people that I hope got some inspiration from this, the people who sat home today and are worried about the world's going to cave in and Trump's going to do whatever he wants and it's all over, there's no point in fighting. I hope you took a look at what happened with this No Kings Day and you said to yourself, well, there are people willing to fight. Maybe we do have a shot. Because I'll be honest with you, if you're one of these people that have already given up, you're really no good to the cause. You might as well sit in the corner, wait for it to be over, and then benefit after it's done. The people of this country are getting angry, and they're willing to stand outdoors in these protests and push back against something that has been pushing us for 10 years. More specifically and more fiercely in the last 10 months. People have had enough. And we knew this day would come. I'll be honest with you. I thought this day would come much earlier, but better late than never, I would say at this stage. So I'm hoping those Democrats that weren't feeling confident, that felt like that we had no chance and no hope. Hopefully this gave you a bit of inspiration, buoyed your confidence a little bit, to know that there are a lot of people just like you, a lot of people upset, and a lot of people willing to fight. That's the thing you have to understand. This isn't a partisan or bipartisan thing anymore. This isn't Democrats and Republicans. This is the difference between right and wrong. And when I say right, I mean the right side of history. There is no gray area here. You're either right or you're wrong. You're decent or you're indecent. You're criminal or not criminal. That's the distinction here. And it isn't hard to identify. Everyone in the Republican Party, from Donald Trump all the way down to the state legislators, anybody that's gone along with what Donald Trump has done is complicit in this situation. Now, there were people trying to diminish what was going on. People on Fox News and some of the other networks. Multiple MAGA commentators noted an abundance of older people protesting Donald Trump at No Kings protest across the country, leading one MX or ex-MSNBC host to call them out. Tony Ortiz, Current Revolt, posted a video on X on Saturday writing, currently at the No Kings protest in Carrollton, Texas, and it's almost exclusively old white people. That led to Senator Ted Cruz sharing the video along with laughing emojis and the words, "Boomers gotta boom." Democratic activist Michelle Kinney replied to Cruz, writing, "You okay, pumpkin?" MAGA commentator Benny Johnson separately posted a video of the protest, writing, "I've seen dozens of videos, and I'm convinced there's not a single person under 50 at these No Kings protests." See what they're trying to do. They're trying to diminish this. 7 million people hit the street, and they're trying to find a way to make it not a big deal. Well, good luck with that, because there were plenty of people under 50. And even if there weren't, so what? 7 million people is 7 million people. The fact that they may be old or the fact that they may be young makes no difference. When you have that many people who are willing to stand in the streets and in the parks and wherever and express their discontent for the failures of the Republican Party, if that doesn't make you stand up and take notice, you're fucking oblivious. Brian Mistrot, a politically homeless conservative, replied to Johnson, writing, "At least 80% here are under 50, but keep telling yourself that." I mean, that's exactly right. They will say things, they will lie about anything just to make their point. And the fact that they have to lie to make their point is what's most troubling. I'll give you a perfect example. We've got the shutdown. The Democrats want to extend the subsidies on the ACA so people's health care doesn't go up by 400%, or they don't lose it altogether. That's all they want to do. And the fact of the matter is they don't want to add any more money. There's no extra money to be added. What this is about is continuing the existing subsidies. So there is no extra money, just to continue the existing subsidies. Now, the Republicans don't want to extend those subsidies, which seems silly to me because it's going to impact their constituents as much or more than anybody else. But Donald Trump needs to win this thing. He needs to win it. So they make up a story. They say, well, they're going to spend $1 trillion on illegal immigrants for health care, which is absolutely categorically untrue. That's not true at all. They can say it as many times as they want, and they can say it as strongly as they want, but the fact of the fucking matter is that that's not true. They do what they always do. They take some little tidbit or some loophole and they exaggerate it, and then they try to make something out of it because they've got nothing of any real value to fight against what the Democrats are putting in front of them. I know I've covered this before, but I'm going to do it again. There is one little segment in the bill and in these subsidies that just might affect an illegal immigrant. And it doesn't have money going to the illegal immigrant. It has money going to a hospital. So here's the deal. We know that if somebody comes in desperate or dire need, maybe on death's door, and goes to a hospital, they take them in and deal with them first. Now, if this person ends up not having health care, then the government would subsidize that, not for the benefit of the person who's getting the service, because if they come to the door, they're going to get the service. They're not going to ask about their immigration status or their color or anything like that. If somebody is desperate need of medical care, they're going to do it because the Hippocratic Oath, and that's just the way they're made to do things. But if they do that and that party doesn't have health care or money to pay for it, the government will then make them whole. Now, on a rare occasion, it could be that an illegal immigrant gets hurt badly and is in an emergency situation and has to go to the hospital. Now, the illegal immigrant will get the help he needs because they're in desperate need. When it's all said and done, they don't qualify for the ACA or Medicaid or Medicare. No matter what they tell you, illegal immigrants don't qualify for that. But they got the help. They don't have the insurance. So the government will then subsidize the hospital so they don't lose any money on the deal. That's the one occasion that they've expanded and exploded and suggested that that is how Democrats want to give $1 trillion to the illegal immigrants for health care. It's categorically bullshit. It's just not true. But they have to come up with something. They have to come up with something. And that's what they come up with. That's fucking it. And this is what they do all the time. They will lie about anything. They're going to try to talk shit about the No Kings protest. Oh, it wasn't any big deal. Bullshit. It was a big deal. You don't see the Republicans able to pull this kind of thing off. Hell, Donald Trump can't even pull the same kind of crowd at his fucking rallies with his low energy, low intellect fucking speeches that go off on tangents and are incoherent. They don't want to admit that there's anything behind it, but I will tell you this, there are independent people and more center-right people that are getting tired of what's going on with Donald Trump. Donald Trump made a lot of claims coming in. I'm going to bring down prices. Inflation is going to go down. We're going to bring in a bunch of money. We're going to bring in manufacturing. And guess what? None of that has happened. And Donald Trump doesn't have anything in the works to make that happen. There's nothing, fucking absolutely nothing. And there are people in the Republican Party that are getting a little nervous about that. Farmers, manufacturers, people who need to hire employees. People are struggling right now, and it's not just Democratic people, it's Republicans, it's all people, because this is affecting the country as a whole. Now, people will say, well, the stock market is going okay, and that's true. And I don't know really much about the stock market, but I will tell you this stock market is all speculation on what they think is going to happen, and that determines where the stock market is. And the stock market can go great guns if they want. But if people can't afford food, if they can't afford housing, if they can't afford clothes or health care or daycare, if they can't afford that, the economy is not good. And we know at this moment in time, those are very serious problems in this country. So we have this shutdown. And Donald Trump keeps trying to intimidate the Democrats, or at least appeal to their more sensitive side. You remember what he said? If you shut this down, I'm going to fire a bunch of federal employees. He wanted the Democrats to go, oh, no, don't do that. We'll bend to your every desire. Democrats didn't do that. He tried to fire 4,000 or 5,000 people from the federal employee rolls. But then a court said, yeah, you can't do that. Then he said, if this goes past November 1, I'm going to start shutting down Democratic programs. That's an interesting thing for him to say, the Democratic programs. Is he suggesting that any program that might be considered liberal to be Democratic programs, that the Republicans have nothing to do with it? I think you might be surprised to find out that that's not true. For example, they're talking about the SNAP program. Now, Donald Trump said he was going to shut down the SNAP program in November if they didn't find an answer to this shutdown. Again, trying to put the pressure on the Democrats. But here's the deal. There is going to be a problem with SNAP come November, because the SNAP program only has the money for October, and if the shutdown continues, the SNAP program is going to take a hit. The SNAP program is going to have problems, which means a lot of people that count on food stamps, the SNAP program, are not going to have money for simple things like eating. And this is where Donald Trump is more than happy to let people suffer. But there's another thing to consider about this. If this SNAP program is taken down, it's going to affect grocery stores. It's going to affect the people who supply grocery stores. It's going to have a domino effect, and people are going to get pissed, and they are going to be put in trouble. Now, here's the thing about the SNAP thing. If you're using SNAP, you may want to check this out, assuming the shutdown goes past November 1. In many states, once the SNAP program is shut down, there's no money going out to anybody who gets food stamps or the SNAP program. None. In some states, I'm presuming a lot of blue states, there is money set aside in the state to fill a gap like this, a shutdown of something like that. And some states will be there, and the SNAP program will continue in that state, at least for short period of time. I don't know how much money they set aside. But there are going to be a lot of states that don't have that money set aside, the states that have the least amount of money. And you know who that largely is? Red states. You think Alabama's got money set aside for SNAP? I don't fucking think so. Do you think there's anybody in Alabama that's on SNAP? Guarantee you there's a lot of people. Virginia, Georgia, Arkansas, Texas. If we go into November and a ton of these red states and some blue states end up not having money for SNAP, that's going to get ugly. When you start taking away food from people, you're going to have problems. You're going to have bigger problems than 7 million people out protesting friendly and such for no King's Day. There are going to be people that are mad. There are going to be people that can't feed their kids. And what are they going to do with that? You know, it's a sad thing that everything has to burn down for some people to understand what's going on. And I've said that before when I've talked to some of the other people on the show. When Donald Trump won on November 5th, I thought, okay, the Republicans will have some guardrails. Then we quickly found out they have no courage, they have no guardrails, and they're just letting Donald Trump run rogue and do whatever he wants. The problem with this is it's impacting the people of this country mightily, and not just Democrats, but Republicans too. Still, in November 5th, we had 49% of this country vote for Donald Trump. 49% of the country voted for Donald Trump. Okay. They knew what happened in the first term, but either they forgot or didn't care or thought it would be great to get the immigrants out and then take away money from people other than them. What they didn't see, what they didn't recognize is they were going to get hurt too. Now, I will tell you this, me and several guests here told you this was going to happen prior to November 5th, but you refused to listen. You just smirked and you talked shit and you said you can't wait for the Epstein files to be released. You can't wait for the Democrats to get their due and get their money taken away from them. But here we are. Republicans are suffering. They are struggling. And they don't know what to do. They've been hit broadside. The unforeseen happened. And unfortunately, what it seems like, and I hate to say this, but I've said it before, is that apparently this motherfucker has to burn down before some people get a clue. It's unfortunate, but it seems like that's the case. So a lot of people are going to have to suffer for this country to learn a lesson. At least the 49% that were dumb enough to vote for Donald Trump. If you thought it went bad in the first term, you had to know it was going to go worse in the second term because he has less restrictions. Nobody with a reasonable mind wanted to be appointed to his cabinet, so he's got a host of dumb fucks that are incompetent and don't know what they're doing. Over and above the evil part of what they're doing, they're incompetent. So nothing's running efficiently. Nothing's running properly because they've got nobody in the position to do that. Secondly, Donald Trump doesn't have to worry about getting elected again. You don't have to worry about that. He's cool. He can be as egregious and as evil as he wants, cruel as he wants, and that's exactly what he's doing. Now, I don't know that it's Donald Trump that's cruel per se, but the people around him, the Stephen Millers and all the other fucking clowns, they know how to manipulate this idiot. So they keep pumping him through these ideas, telling him he's going to be popular if he does this. And of course, the dumb fuck does it. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He's just trying to make some noise and make himself look tough. The one thing you can recognize about Donald Trump, every time he gets pushback from the Democrats or anybody else, maybe even Republicans, what's he always do? He always makes a threat. Always makes a threat. And then if that doesn't work, he makes a more serious threat. And one of the problems I have is that when Donald Trump opens his mouth and makes a threat, there are people on the Democratic side that will stand up and take it as if it's gospel, that it's absolutely going to happen. And that's when we get the Chicken Little saying, oh my God, the sky is falling. What you have to remember about Donald Trump, I said this a million times, I'll say it another million times if I fucking have to. Donald Trump is incompetent. He is a fuck up. Almost everything he does, he fucks up. I mean, take a look at some of the situations going on now with the tariffs. He claims that there's going to be all kinds of money coming in. He says there's all kinds of money coming in, but the farmers get fucked. So he says, don't worry about it. We'll bail you out. When are you going to do that? These guys are suffering right now. They're in harvest season. They got to get rid of their stuff, and they're either going to have to sell it cheap or they've got nobody to send it to because you fucked up with China, a place that you've told us twice that you had tariff deals figured out. And then China comes back and says, yeah, no, we don't have a deal. So when are the farmers going to get bailed out? Now, the military aren't getting paid. And they said, don't worry, they're going to get paid. Well, they already missed a payday. When are you going to pay them? See, Donald Trump says a lot of shit. He doesn't always do a lot of shit. He just says whatever comes in his mind at that moment and fucking spews it out, whether it's true or not, whether he can follow through with it or not. And this is where the problem lies for Donald Trump. And this is why the ultimate crash is inevitable. He's getting to a point where he can't handle or manage everything that's going on. So he just says whatever works at the moment, and then it doesn't work. He loses more people's support. He puts more people in a bad situation. Donald Trump is failing right now. He's in the classic spiral ready to crash stage of a narcissist. That's what happens. They get cornered. They can't answer questions. They can't spin out of something. They can't divert. So what they do is they start flailing and they start doing anything and everything. And here's the problem with that. When he does this right now, and you can expect this, you can feel good that the crash is coming soon, but the period prior to the crash is the most dangerous and the most potential, or most, not the most potential, the most potential for destructive behavior. That's what Donald Trump's going to do. If he can't win, he is going to take down everyone and everything with him. It is going to be an absolute shit show. That's just the way narcissists go. That's what they do. So we're going to go through a period of time here where it's pretty dangerous and pretty fucked up. That's weird to say because we've already gone through 10 months of pretty fucked up. But I have a feeling it's going to get worse. And he's going to lose more and more. He's going to continue to lose. Like, he's got an indictment of James Comey and Letitia James and now John Bolton. He's looking at Adam Schiff. The thing about it is the Jim Comey one is really problematic for Donald Trump, and I think he's finally starting to see it. He's got a number of problems with that because there really is no evidence. The prosecutors earlier said we're not going to indict or try to indict James Comey because there's not enough evidence. They said the same thing with Letitia James. But James Comey has a few bucks. He's not a stupid guy, and he's got a great lawyer. I think it's Abby Lowell. Abby Lowell is not somebody to be fucked with. He knows his shit. And he's quite a bit smarter than this Halligan clown that Donald Trump put in at the last minute because the prosecutors he had before said, yeah, there's no evidence. So he puts this cover girl piece of shit Halligan in. But here's the deal. Abby Lowell understands the rules where Donald Trump and his people don't understand the rules. This Halligan woman was made the prosecutor. And they did it in an inappropriate way. In a legal way. So Abby Lowell, the first thing he's going to do, he's going to offer up this and say, we need to dismiss this because this woman shouldn't even be in the position to do this. That's what he's going to say. And the fact of the matter is the courts will probably find out that that is true. They know it's true. So if now they have to kick out Halligan, that not only affects James Comey's trial, but Letitia James and John Bolton too. Because nobody else in the prosecution is willing to push forth and prosecute this case. There's another part of it too with James Comey. The evidence isn't there, so it may go to the judge and they'll say, look, you need to dismiss this. There's no evidence. And if the judge sees the obvious, he might do that too. It's going to be interesting to see what Donald Trump does if they don't even go to trial. That's going to be embarrassing for him. And that's the one thing Donald Trump hates the most. He hates to be fucking embarrassed, does not like to be embarrassed. So it's going to be interesting. That whole situation with these indictments in the trials is going to be a mess for Donald Trump, and it won't work. It won't work. He's trying to intimidate, he's trying to distract, but it's not going to work because, as I told you before, he's incompetent and he's a fuck up and he will always fuck up. And everybody's hired like this Halligan woman who doesn't know shit about shit. I mean, shit, she's an insurance lawyer. He just needed a lawyer to put in there. He put her in a league, and this thing's all going to fall apart. It's inevitable. And Donald Trump will try some other fucking loophole or whatever, but it won't work. Take a look at what's going on with Donald Trump right now. Is anything working? Is anything he's done worked? No. He's caused trouble. He's caused a mess. He's caused destruction. But he's like a bull in a china shop. He has really no strategy or any goals here. He just wants to create a mess, which he's doing because the Republican Party in Congress is allowing him to do that. That's got to come to a stop at some point. Here's another spot where Donald Trump fucked up. We've been hearing about how Donald Trump is bombing these fishing boats off the coast of Venezuela in international water, claiming that they are drug traffickers. And he thinks you can just fly a plane over, bomb the piss out of them, kill everybody, and he's perfectly within his rights to do that. Fact of the matter is, he's not. And I'm sure there are other countries that are getting kind of angry about this. What they can or will do, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, what Donald Trump is doing is criminal. Now, here's where he fucked up again. The last boat that he bombed, and they always show it on TV because Donald Trump's got to show how tough he is. Somebody asked him about killing these people on these boats, and he said, "I'm proud of doing this." Really, Donnie? Well, here's what's interesting. On that last boat that he bombed, there were 2 survivors. I don't know how that happened, how you get 2 survivors after, an American missile strikes their little boat, but there are 2 survivors. These survivors were immediately put in detention. Nobody could talk to them. And you would presume that they would be in detention forever, so they couldn't talk and we'd never hear from them again and might disappear or might die mysteriously. But that's not what happened. Donald Trump is now sending them to their homes in Colombia and Ecuador to be detained and prosecuted. Whether that will happen in Colombia or Ecuador, I don't know. Whether Donald Trump's got enough pull there to do that, I don't know. But if these guys were truly drug traffickers and Donald Trump went after them the way he did, the proper process is to bring them back through the United States, to give them due process, put them in court. And you would think he'd want to do that too. It would be a great show of power if he brought these narco traders back to the United States and put them on a show trial. But he didn't do that. He sent them back home, presumably to be tried by whoever. For my money, that suggests yet another fuck up by Donald Trump. If they were in fact drug traders, he would have brought them back and prosecuted them. The fact that he just let them go home to their home countries tells me he fucked up. And this is a bad mistake. He keeps telling us these are drug traffickers, but clearly these 2 weren't. Otherwise, they would be here standing trial, but they're not. Once again, a Donald Trump fuck up. And we'll see if somebody makes something out of this. We'll see if these people talk. It could be interesting. We know that there's at least one woman down in Venezuela or in that general area that says her husband is missing because he was on one of these boats previously, and that he's not a drug runner. He never has been. Donald Trump is just shooting fishing boats in the ocean, international waters, like sitting ducks because he needs the attention, because he needs the distraction. Donald Trump is literally murdering people that are innocent, or at least never proven to be guilty, just because he wants to. And again, who do you blame for that? Who allows him to do that? It's only one group of people. That's the Republicans in Congress. They're all too fearful, or they're all equally evil or complicit, where they're fine with this. There is no administration in the past that could get away with something like this to this extent, this blatantly. But he does now. And again, it only goes back to the fact that it's the Republican Party that allows him to do that. That's something important you need to remember when we come to the 2026 election. Which Republicans are bad and which are good? I'm going to tell you this right now. Anybody that's complicit or stands by with Donald Trump in the actions he's taking are all complicit. You can't be safe with any Republican that would be running in any race. You can't. Now, I think the Republicans are going to get a little bit of a hint coming soon. We've got this um, mayoral race in New York City. Mondami is probably going to win. The Republicans hate that because he's Muslim and they are tied to Israel, and Israel doesn't like the guy. He's going up against Andrew Cuomo and Curtis Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa is a fucking clown. He's the Republican, has no chance of winning. Andrew Cuomo lost to Mondami in the primary, but still wants to run as an independent. Well, I got to tell you, if you saw the clips from the debate, you can see where Andrew Cuomo's headed. He's not going to win this thing either. So if Mondami wins in New York City, that's going to set the tone. A young Democratic socialist is going to win in New York City. And he'll probably be very successful and probably be very popular. Then you've got this race for the governorship in New Jersey. Now, the Democrats should win easily enough, but the Republicans have been doing everything they can to try to slander Mickey Sherrill, who is running for governor. If you listen to the media, they go, well, she started out strong, but whoever the clown is, and he's a clown that's running against Mickey Sherrill, he's tightening the race. The media will say anything to create some controversy or some interest. Earlier this year, Mickey Sherrill was leading the Republican candidate by 8 points. That's significant. Has the Republican tightened the race a little bit? Yeah, but now she's only up by 6%. That's significant. Mickey Sherrill is going to win the governorship in New Jersey. There's no question. And then you've got the governor's position down in North Carolina. That's not North Carolina. I'm sorry, Virginia. Republican, another goofball down there running against a Democrat. But Virginia's got a very special set of problems. With this shutdown, it severely impacts Virginia. Being close to Washington, D.C., there's a lot of federal employees that live in Virginia, like 100,000 or something like that, live in Virginia. Knowing that everybody believes and understands that this shutdown is caused by the Republicans, how do you think that's going to do in the governor's race? Now, if you get a Democratic governor in Virginia, a Democratic governor in New Jersey, and a Democratic mayor in New York City, it may not be surprising to some folks because you'd kind of expect that, maybe not Virginia, but the other two. But watch how much they win by. They're going to win by significant amounts. And when that happens, the Republicans are going to shit themselves because they're going to take this as an omen of what's coming up and what's going to happen. Then, as we get closer to the 2026 elections, they're going to get nervous. They're either going to have to go all in on Donald Trump and get their ass kicked, or they're going to have to bail on Donald Trump. We'll see what happens. I'm not counting on a lot of courage coming out of the Republican Party. They have shown none in the last 10 months, and I don't expect they will. But there will come a point where they will have to make a choice, and they will have to make the choice to save their own lives. I think it's too late to save them at this point, but they maybe believe that they have a shot. Now, here's the thing that I found really interesting. And even Republicans are questioning it and think it's stupid. Donald Trump just made a huge mistake in releasing a Republican from prison. This is according to former George W. Bush administration White House press secretary Ari Fleischer. Now, Fleischer's a Fox News contributor who served as press secretary under then President George W. Bush from 2001 to July of 2003. He chimed in over the weekend after learning that Trump commuted the sentence of disgraced ex GOP Representative George Santos. Santos not only was found to have lied to voters about his background, but also to have committed wire fraud and other felonies. Fleischer says, why? This is a mistake. He wrote it all over social media. Wire fraud and identity theft are serious crimes. And Ari's right. Why would you do this? I mean, the Republicans don't even like this clown. The Republicans don't even like him. Why would Donald Trump do this? Well, I have a theory. It sounds stupid, but it is Donald Trump, so that should not be surprising to anybody. Two things. Donald Trump, of course, wants a distraction. He wants to create a hubbub, get the Democrats all angered about George Santos getting released to take them off the Epstein files or whatever. But also, he just wants to own the libtards. He'll do anything to own the libtards, even if it hurts him. And by allowing George Santos to go, he's probably hurting himself and the Republican Party. Because as I said, the Republican Party doesn't even like this fucking clown. They were embarrassed by him. They banished him from Congress. Why you would give this guy a commutation, it makes no sense. It's just flat stupid. But this is what Donald Trump will do. He thinks he's owning the libtards. I got to be honest. The libtards don't give a fuck. And I think that's the attitude you have to take here. When he does something like this, ignore it. Who cares? George Santos is free. I don't really care. I don't care what they do or how they do it. Let's focus on the big things. Get us the Epstein files. Open up the government. Protect us and our health care. Bring prices down so people can afford to fucking eat. Make sure the SNAP payments are done in November. But instead, he's bombing a fishing boat in the ocean and he's releasing George Santos. This is how unserious this motherfucker is. He can't think of anything cogent enough to get something done. He's always got to be flailing. He's always got to be doing something, hoping that whatever he does actually sticks to the wall and gains some ground for him. But guess what? Every fucking time, it doesn't work. Now we have the problem with the Epstein files, and we have a Republican Party in the House of Representatives, which has gone missing. They've been on vacation for 3 weeks, maybe going on 4 weeks. We're in the middle of a shutdown. They're blaming the Democrats, but these fucks are on vacation. Make that make sense. And then you've got the Jeffrey Epstein files and Mike Johnson not willing to swear in the new representative from Arizona that would presumably give the 218th vote on the option to go around Mike Johnson and get a vote on the Epstein files. They love to say they're transparent, and they are transparent in this situation. They're clearly cowards. They're clearly supporting pedophiles, and they're going to have to own that, and they're going to have to wear it. MSNBC host Alex Witt questioned a GOP congressman about whether it's true he's gone into the legislative witness protection to dodge constituents amid the government shutdown. Now, Representative Dusty Johnson, a Republican from South Dakota, lashed out after being asked about comments from the House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries on Friday morning. Now, speaking to the press, Jeffries blamed House Speaker Mike Johnson for keeping his members away from Washington. Johnson announced the congressional break would begin a week early in June for the summer recess. No one can find them here in the Capitol, and no one can find them in their districts. They're not holding town hall meetings. They're not visiting federal employees. They're not engaging with their constituents. They've been on vacation for 3 weeks, Hakeem Jeffries said. While some in the GOP caucus remained in Washington, many have been in their districts. Johnson, along with the rest of his delegation, Senator John Thune and Mike Rounds, were criticized in March after refusing to hold in-person town hall meetings. Johnson explained that Jeffrey is falsely claiming that members aren't speaking to constituents because he had a telephone event where people could call in. Why don't you show up in person? Are you nervous? Are you afraid? Sure, you can have people call in, but you can have people screen the calls too. If someone sounds like they're going to come after you or ask you a hard question, you just don't bring them up in the conversation. Now, you actually have to go to the town hall, stand in front of the people you represent, and take the slings and arrows and the questions that you don't want to take. If you're not willing to do that, then I think it's fair to say you're in the witness protection program, that you're fucking hiding. You think about this with the Republicans. Think about this. They can't have town hall meetings. They can't show up to work. They can't say anything against Donald Trump. Isn't Congress supposed to be a co-equal branch of government? Not obliged to a president or the judicial branch or anything like that? Our Congress is no longer a co-equal branch of government. It's a co-opted branch of government and co-opted by Donald Trump. And we're talking about the Republicans primarily. They have to check with Donald Trump before they do anything. That's never been the case in Congress. Congress has been independent. And sometimes Republicans go against Republicans and Democrats go against Democrats. Not the case anymore. If you're a Republican, you better toe the fucking line or you're going to get primaried or crucified in the press. The damage that's been done to this country's government is immense. We've got a complicit Supreme Court. We've got 6 members of the Supreme Court that aren't considering the Constitution or anything along those lines. They don't give a fuck about that. They don't care. That's a problem. It's hard to run a democracy when you don't have 3 co-equal branches. When we have all 3 branches complicit with one another, obliged to the President of the United States, and there is no checks and balances anymore. Donald Trump does whatever he wants to do because the Supreme Court, Congress, the judicial system, they all let him do it. The thing about this is it can only go on so long. You can only go on fucking things up so long before it all crashes into a steaming pile of shit. And we're getting closer to that. Unfortunately, when that happens, we'll all be covered in a little bit of shit. So the only thing I can hope for at this point that it happens quick and fast so we can get out from underneath it quick and fast. Things like this protest help in breaking down or cracking what's going on with the Republican Party. I mean, even if Donald Trump wants to deny it, these members of Congress can't help but understand what's going on when 7 million people or more go out on the streets and say, we hate your fucking guts. We think you're doing it wrong. We think you're criminals. They can't help but notice. They can't help but hear the knocking at the door of their careers soon to be over. That's what's going to happen. Now, this is an interesting story because I hate this motherfucker. I hate both these motherfuckers. Senator Mike Lee of Utah, who is a screaming, raging Trump-la-fuck and just out there. Now, Mike Lee was outraged at people who were mocking Senator Mitch McConnell after he fell while walking in the Senate building, posting a tweet scolding, no decent person should mock an 83-year-old's fall. But he himself is guilty of a similar offense. You see, Mike Lee doesn't like it when we call out Mitch McConnell, who may be one of the most evil motherfuckers ever to sit in Washington, D.C. making fun of Mitch McConnell when he falls for like the third or fourth time, or when he's glitched in front of the cameras. I have to say, I'm guilty. I'll make fun of that fucker all day. If anybody deserves to be put on blast, it's Mitch McConnell, and Mike Lee for that matter. McConnell took a tumble this week while walking through the Senate Russell Building basement. The moment caught on video by activists who were trying to ask him questions about ICE raids. Now, after the video drew ridicule, including from the right, McConnell's former chief of staff, Josh Holmes, tweeted a long thread defending his boss' legacy. No decent person, certainly no conservative person should mock an 83-year-old's fall, wrote Lee. That was heartbreaking, and the thought of anyone finding it amusing is hard to fathom. Now, as other social media users were quick to point out, however, Lee took a far different tone in July when he tweeted a photo of former President Joe Biden tripping on the stairs to Air Force One. Lee has a history of edgy and controversial social media posts in recent years, especially with his based Mike Lee account. In June, he loudly criticized for several tweets he posted that were viewed as heartless, mocking the targeted shootings of two Democratic Minnesota legislators and their spouses, and baselessly blamed the shootings on the left. He later deleted the tweets. So he's upset. He's mad that we're making fun of evil fucking Satan himself, Mitch McConnell. You can't believe a decent person would do that. However, he's more than willing to mock two Democratic Minnesota legislators and their spouses that were innocent completely of anything, that were shot, and then suggest it was by the left, but in fact, it was a right-wing nut fucking case. So, Mike Lee, I'm not going to be shamed by what you're suggesting about Mitch McConnell. He's an old fuck. He's an evil fuck. He deserved what he gets. The only thing regretful about him falling is that the motherfucker got up. I wish he would have stayed down. Anybody has a problem with that, you're more than welcome to email me. But I know nobody in this audience is going to feel that way. They're going to agree through the whole thing. All right. Okay, J.D. Vance on Saturday told the U.S. Marine Corps members gathered at Camp Pendleton in California that they will get paid despite the government shutdown. Nice words. How's that going to happen? Has it happened yet? Have they missed a check? Yeah, I think they have. Vance, appearing with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Second Lady Usha Vance, gave remarks at the Marine Corps 250th anniversary celebration. Trump, and he wanted me to tell each and every single one of you that he's proud of you, that he loves you. Yeah. Donald Trump doesn't love anybody but himself, Vance said. And despite the Schumer shutdown, he's going to do everything he can to make sure you get paid exactly what you deserve. That, of course, was met with cheers. Vance added that he had to just get a little political because congressional Democrats seem to want the government shut down, even though it would mean a lot of you would not get paychecks. Vance said he told the president that the administration needs to figure out how to pay these Marines, both for their sake, but also, of course, because if we don't pay our enlisted Marines, every bar in Southern California is going to go out of business. Got to throw in a joke there, don't you? This is a time when people just want to laugh when they're not getting paid. Senate Republicans have had questions about how Trump will pay more than 1 million military service members and what funding will go toward them. Trump recently ordered Hegseth to use all available funds to ensure the troops got their paychecks earlier this week. Have you done that? Have they gotten paid? I don't think they've gotten paid. And even if you could come up with the money for 1 million members of the military, where's it coming from? Would you even tell us? On Wednesday, Senate Majority Leader John Thune put a vote on the calendar for next week on a bill to pay service members. The bill, sponsored by Senator Ron Johnson, would ensure service members are being paid during the shutdown once unobligated funds identified by the administration run out. Now, here's the thing about John Thune. He is telling the Democrats, I dare you not to vote for this. I dare you not to vote for this, even though there is no real sense of where the money's coming from or how they're doing it. But this is another trick by the Republicans. They want the Democrats to say, no, no, we can't do this, so that they can say, see, the Democrats don't want to pay the military. Even though the way they're doing it is wrong, they want the Democrats to step up and say no. And I would say this to Democrats at this point, who gives a fuck? Money has been stolen and moved and everything. Just vote with them, get the people paid. They will have no narrative to talk badly about you. It'll be calling them out on their own bluff, and that's what you need to do at this point. We have bigger fish to fry at this stage. Let the military get paid. I'm cool with it, because when it's all said and done and they're out of power, there's going to be a lot of questions about where that money came from. And there's going to be people that are going to be held responsible. People like J.D. Vance, people like Pete Hegseth, people like Donald Trump. Let them fucking do it. Pay the military. I'd like to see them get paid anyway. If they're going to do it in a fucked up way, God bless them. You'll pay the price later. All right. I'm going to wrap up this Rational Boomer podcast. It was kind of an unconventional one. Did my best. See how it goes. See how you guys like it. Anyway, we'll have more guests and more lives coming up over the next week or so. And there's going to be a lot of fucked up shit going on. So you'll want to stay in touch with us here on the Rational Boomer podcast. So all of you listening, I want to thank you for taking the time to do that. I hope you have a great day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.